In today's modern era, the rising dissatisfaction in people's lives has led to mental illnesses spreading like an epidemic. Great psychologists, such as Sir Freud, attempted to understand the cause of this and found that the biggest issue in today's society is our misunderstanding of the true meaning of self-satisfaction. To achieve self-satisfaction, the first step is to eliminate the feeling of self or I from within. Once you free yourself from the chains of this I, the path to self-satisfaction will become much easier. However, this deep psychological truth and the correct understanding of the word I are not new ideas. Centuries before these psychologists, Gautama Buddha had already taught that letting go of the ego is the only way to attain true peace and happiness. In this brilliant book, the author presents Buddha's teachings through a psychological perspective. By listening to this book, you too can embark on a new journey towards self-satisfaction. If we view life through the lens of Buddhism and psychology, we will realize that the core message of both is quite similar. On one hand, Buddhism views life as a constantly spinning wheel, with anger, desire, and illusion at its center, preventing us from attaining true happiness and contentment. Similarly, psychology considers these same emotions to be the root cause of all mental illnesses. In Buddhist teachings, desire, delusion, and anger are compared to a snake, pig, and rooster, respectively, which prevent us from connecting with our inner self and keep us entangled in the material world. Likewise, if we look at Sigmund Freud's psychological theory, he too identified eros, desire, and thanatos, anger, as the primary sources of human suffering. Eros is a Greek word meaning God of love, which Freud used to describe the feeling of desire, as we usually crave the things we love. Similarly, thanatos, meaning embodiment of death in Greek, is associated with anger because Freud believed that the fear of death is what drives human aggression. When either of these emotions becomes overwhelming, they can lead to mental disorders. Thus, both psychology and Buddhism emphasize the importance of controlling these emotions to live a simple and peaceful life. According to Buddhism, we cannot achieve enlightenment and true wisdom until we rid our inner selves of this I. It is this I that creates the third animal of the wheel of life, which Buddha symbolized as the black pig. Buddhism teaches that there is a difference between ego and I. The I is the self that interacts with the world and engages in worldly activities, while the ego is what makes a person feel superior and detached from the rest of the world. Buddha emphasized that we can use this ego positively during meditation by perceiving ourselves as part of the divine, rather than being tied to worldly desires. Just as Buddhism views the I as an illusion, psychology also considers it to be the cause of several mental disorders, such as bipolar personality and depression. To understand this better, consider a young child who sees themselves as an extension of their mother and cannot imagine life without her. As they grow older, they realize they are separate individuals with their own desires and identity, and this realization turns an innocent child into a person driven by greed and worldly attachments. In this way, both Buddhism and psychology teach us the importance of letting go of the I to achieve true peace and self-satisfaction. When we begin to perceive ourselves as separate from the divine, as an isolated I, we often feel small and lonely. This sense of isolation and loneliness becomes the root cause of dissatisfaction and various mental illnesses. In this way, the author cleverly links the mysteries of psychology with the teachings of Buddhism in an engaging manner. Managing the feeling of I and maintaining a balance is quite difficult. If this sense of self increases, it can turn into arrogance, and if it diminishes, it can lead to fear and inferiority. The author explains that often, to maintain a good image in society, we end up hiding our true personality, which can lead to various problems. From childhood, we are taught to behave in a certain way to be accepted by society and to follow the norms established by it. Otherwise, we risk being isolated. This pressure forces people to behave differently than their true nature, and over time, suppressing their true personality becomes the root cause of many mental disorders. For example, narcissism often develops in such social contexts. If a person suppresses their true thoughts and acts against them for a long time, the balance of their I can become disrupted, and they may begin to see themselves as superior to others. Such people tend to be selfish and only think about themselves. They can go to any extent for their own benefit. This is how the imbalance of I leads to severe emotional and psychological problems, as discussed in both psychology and Buddhism. If, on the other hand, a person suppresses their emotions for too long and develops a sense of inferiority, they may start blaming themselves for everything that goes wrong. Their outlook on life becomes negative, and they begin to feel lonely and isolated. Such individuals can sometimes fall into deep depression and, feeling that no one needs them, may even resort to extreme measures like self-harm or suicide. Even Gautam Buddha believed that the concept of I is highly intricate, and finding answers to the questions surrounding it is incredibly difficult. Once, a man named Vashyagata asked Buddha whether there really is such a thing as I, and if so, what it is like. Buddha smiled and responded that any answer he gave would only entangle Vashyagata further in the illusion of the I. Therefore, he chose to remain silent as he explained, the I is nothing but emptiness. According to Buddha, unless a person walks the path of true wisdom, they cannot understand the fundamental nature of I. Without this understanding, it is nearly impossible to free oneself from its bonds. Therefore, in order to gain true knowledge and self-realization, incorporating meditation and compassion into one's life is crucial. When you meditate, you begin to observe your thoughts without getting caught up in them. Once you master the art of meditation, you will come to see yourself as nothing more than a fleeting thought. You will realize that at the core of I, there is only emptiness. On the other hand, if we talk about the quality of compassion, Dalai Lama himself believes that compassion is essential for attaining true happiness. When we help others and show kindness towards them, we experience a deep sense of satisfaction. Thus, where psychology aims to connect you with your true self, Buddhism asserts that there is no such thing as I, and that within the I lies nothing but emptiness. Society claims that with the advent of Western culture, we are progressing toward modernity and advancement. But no one is paying attention to the cost at which this so-called progress is being achieved. That cost is our mental peace and satisfaction. As we increasingly adopt Western ways, we are sinking deeper into loneliness and an insatiable hunger for material things. The author points out that the situation is even worse in Western countries, where despite the wealth, the number of mental illnesses is much higher. One possible reason for this could be that in the West, most women are working professionals, and since nuclear families are the norm, when women go to work, children often feel lonely. In contrast, in Eastern cultures, joint families are more common, and children still grow up under the guidance of elders, which helps ensure healthier mental development. Therefore, the author has illustrated in this book how, although Western countries have undoubtedly made significant progress, their hunger for more continues to grow, pulling them further away from eternal truth. In contrast, the picture is quite different in Eastern countries, where from the beginning, people are taught to follow societal norms. As a result, social inequality takes root, and feelings of superiority or inferiority emerge in individuals. Both societies, therefore, need reform. Let's see what path Buddhism offers for this improvement. Buddhism teaches us to live by accepting all kinds of emotions. Whether it's the feeling of pain or joy, the more we try to suppress or forget it, the more troubled we become. For example, if you feel like crying, cry. Don't hold it in. Then, notice how much lighter your heart feels afterward. The author mentions that society often encourages us to be critical of our emotions, expressing only those deemed appropriate while suppressing our true feelings. However, according to Buddhism, we should embrace emotions with openness so they do not manifest in a harmful way. To achieve this, we can practice bare attention, which is a form of mindfulness meditation. Even psychology supports this notion. The author, being a renowned psychiatrist, once advised a patient to practice mindfulness by fully experiencing his emotional pain, which led to significant improvement in the patient's mental state. The story goes that a young man named Sid once came to the author, deeply infatuated with a girl named Rachel. His obsession grew to the point that he would constantly call and bother her. Finally, frustrated with himself, Sid sought help from the author. With the guidance of Buddhist principles, Sid decided to stop contacting Rachel and instead endure his emotional pain. This decision transformed his life, and he was able to return to a normal, balanced existence. We can also learn the lesson of living with open emotions from a small child. Have you ever wondered why children often have carefree smiles on their faces? It's because they experience every emotion without overthinking, trusting that their mother will take care of their needs. As a result, they don't worry. But as we grow older, the burden of being social is placed upon us, and we are taught to suppress our emotions, which leads to dissatisfaction and, eventually, mental illness. From the moment we wake up in the morning and pick up a toothbrush to the time we go to bed at night, our minds are constantly preoccupied, either with tasks for the day or past memories. Our bodies may be doing one thing, but our minds are elsewhere, which creates a sort of internal conflict. In this competitive age, everyone is so busy that we've forgotten how to live in the present, and this is the root of most of our problems. This concept of mindfulness may sound like a modern idea, but even Gautam Buddha used to talk about it. He believed that humans should live in the here and now, appreciating each passing moment without worrying about the past or the future. The author suggests that when you wake up in the morning, instead of thinking about your work while brushing your teeth, focus on the taste of the toothpaste. Live in that moment. Think about how the toothbrush is cleaning your teeth. When you take a shower, feel how each drop of water is cleansing your body. Once you start living this way, your entire perspective on life will change. But achieving this isn't so easy because our mind is very restless and tricky. It constantly pulls us toward material attachments. That's why you should use meditation and mindfulness practices to master this. Find a quiet place, sit down, and focus on your breathing. Observe how each breath fills your body with life. As you count your breaths, feel the passage of time. Practice this regularly, and you'll start experiencing a new sense of peace and vitality in your life. Both Buddhism and psychology consider the sense of self, the I, as the root cause of all mental problems. They explain that anger, attachment, and desires prevent us from discovering our true nature. By embracing Buddhist principles, we can address these emotional and psychological challenges and take steps toward a better life. What can you do? Feel your pain. So, next time you feel sad, instead of suppressing the emotion to appear strong, feel it. By doing so, you can connect with your true self and understand the cause of your pain. Once you identify it, you can work on alleviating it. And that, friends, is the summary of Thoughts Without a Thinker by Mark Epstein, M.D. If you found this summary helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe, and please share your thoughts in the comments. Also, feel free to share this wisdom with your friends. See you next time with a new summary. Thank you.